Early one morning, making my round, took a shot of cocaine and I shot my woman down. Went right home and I went to bed. Stuck at 1144 beneath my head.
Scarface, The World Is Yours has a lot to overcome. Not only does it suffer the curse of being a movie-based game, but it also has to do justice to one of the most revered films in American cinema. Following in the footsteps of GTA as a free-roaming crime game, does Tony Montana still have the clout to intimidate 23 years after the film?
Fuck your mother! In walked the sheriff from Jericho Hill. He said, Willie Lee, your name is...
See you at hand!
In a bit of revisionist history, the game begins right after the final shootout at Tony's mansion. In this version, Tony lives. This may offend movie purists, and there are no scenes from the film for the rest of the game. Tony has to rebuild his empire from the ground up, eliminating those that double-crossed him along the way. Despite the fact that the flick's writer has expressed doubts, the story is surprisingly engaging. Though there's very little film footage, the overall feeling is conveyed about as well as you can hope for.
I'm alive, and now what you gonna do, huh? You still work for me.
The voice acting is great. You probably won't notice the absence of Al Pacino. In an odd twist, he personally selected his replacement. The writing is top-notch by game standards, and manages to capture the essence of one of pop culture's biggest badasses.
Now you're fucked!
The cast is huge and filled with stars like Cheech and Chong, Elliot Gould, Ricky Gervais, and Wilder Valderrama. Granted, the source material is quite good, but this game has a better story than most.
Fuck you! Fucking autohead!
There are a few changes to the standard free-roaming format in Scarface, the most glaringly obvious being the balls meter. Corny though it may sound, it fills when Tony does ballsy things, like popping off a few shots into someone's ribcage, trash-talking his dead body, or cutting off people in traffic. Once you accumulate enough balls, you can enter Tony's first-person rage mode, a violent free-for-all where he regains health for each enemy he kills. And all this comes without a face full of yayo. Tony can buy cars and hire a driver, so instead of hijacking a crappy car when he needs a ride, he can just call his goon and he'll drop off Tony's classic 1963 Cadillac convertible with tiger skin seats. One caveat is that Tony is not allowed to carelessly murder innocent pedestrians. Many fans of the genre were weaned on GTA, and it certainly feels like some of the freedom has been taken away. Luckily, there's plenty of street scum that Tony has no problem sweeping up or mowing down. This is made easier by the ability to take cover, and a body part-specific targeting system that's above the status quo. Aside from managing your stash, you have to manage rival gangs and cops via the heat meter. Sometimes it gets so high that you go to jail on the spot. Other times, you can get pulled over and pour on that Montana charm.
I never forget no one who do a favor for me.
Unfortunately, whether you're selling drugs or trying to smooth things over with the police, the game relies entirely too much on what amounts to kicking a field goal in Madden. If you split the uprights, you're going to get a cut rate on drugs, but if you shank it wide right, you could end up in the joint. It's unfortunate that so many game-turning situations rely on this cliched mechanic.
Fuck that! Move along, buddy!
Another issue is that since Tony is the big cheese, you'll have to figure out how to take out the city all on your own. It's nice to be your own boss, but it can also be overwhelming.
Look, I need my car, okay? Sorry, Gaspar. You're breaking up. Must be like a satellite or something, okay? I'll talk to you later. Fucking piece of shit.
Taking over the city follows a familiar route. First you get the money, then you get the properties, and then you get the women.
Don't touch the merchandise.
As you build your fortune, you can buy money laundering joints like pawn shops in different parts of the city as fronts to sling more drugs and make even more money. You take over Miami one neighborhood at a time, and with no loading whatsoever, the city really comes to life around you. Once the money is rolling in, you'll be busy buying tigers, statues, and other exotics for Tony's pad. You earn more respect as you pimp out your mansion, and only the most decadent things will keep Tony happy. The number of items to buy is staggering, and the music library is just as deep. The graphics aren't great, but are passable for current-gen systems. Still, don't be surprised if this film-turned-game makes the next-gen transition just like The Godfather. Scarface is a fun game that's easy to pick up and play, but different enough to be relevant. In some areas, it even manages to one-up its contemporaries. There's some questionable gameplay choices and it can be confusing at times, but the sharp script, solid voice acting, and uncanny atmosphere show an appreciation for the source material like few movie games do.
Don't talk to me, you fucking shit. This is my town, my world, George, and nobody's gonna take it away from me.